gonna talk free.
Okay, cool, cool,
Uh,
cool.
the only one things is then I think it's really important to present you. Who is Kubilay
Ah,
Balcı and what is Turkish history?
okay. It's just like a small. I actually had like a Dutch history page about Turkish history. It was together with a friend of mine, but he is not really into history and politics anymore. He kind of dropped out of it. But they basically had like a history page about for the Dutch and the Belgian Turkish community. But after a while, I kind of got irritated by it because it was really filled with. I mean, the diaspora is usually more nationalistic than the people in Turkey, right? So I started to make one in English, and it was more like popular with Turks from Turkey. And this was like 5 6 years ago, and I started just randomly posting interesting pictures or interesting passages from books that I started to read, and eventually it grew out to 20,000 followers. So this is obviously just like an amateurish type of history page. I'm not a professional history, or did I study history. Um, and others than that, I tend to, I try to travel as much as possible. And 5 months ago, um, 5 6 months ago, I did like a 4 month travel. It kind of started first in Turkey, but after Turkey, I went to Egypt because I had a friend there. I wanted to visit him as well. And I stayed like 1 month in Egypt because Egypt had a lot of, a lot to see. Like I still didn't see everything about Egypt, but from Egypt, then I tried to go to Israel. I was rejected. I went south of the Sinai, went to a port city, took the ferry to Jordan. From Jordan, I tried to go to Iraq, but the problem was like um, traveling in the Arab world is a pain in the ass. Everybody will know that. Like a joke that they make in the Arab world is like um, one thing that all Arabs can agree on is that the Ottoman visa-free system was much better than what they have now, because traversing through borders in the Arab world is a pain in the ass. Just to give you an example, it's either like around 100 euros to go with a taxi to Baghdad from Amman to Baghdad, with a taxi, like a shared taxi, or it's around 300 euros for a flight. And the thing is like this, I remember like sitting there and I was like asking, is there a flight tomorrow to Baghdad? So I wanted to see Samarra as well, which is like the old medieval Turkic slave city. And he said to me like, I got a good price for you. And it's like 300 euros. And I'm like, 300 euros, is that a good price? Like in Europe, you're used to like going from Belgium to Greece for like 10, 20 euros, right? Like that's normal in Europe. And then it's like 300 euros to go from Amman to like Baghdad, which is like next to each other. It's not too close to each other, but it's like a neighboring country, right? So from there, I looked on my phone. I saw like, oh, I can go to Poland for 10 euros. And I went to Poland to visit a friend. From Poland, I went to Vienna because I had to go back to Istanbul to help out with a friend with his, he has like a container business. So I was there to help him out. So I went to Vienna. And from Vienna, I flew back to Istanbul. I helped him out. After that was done, I looked on Google Flights again, like, is there a cheap flight? And I thought to myself, like, I still have, a, a couple of thousand euros left. Let's see Kyrgyzstan as well. So I went to Kyrgyzstan. I flew there. From Kyrgyzstan, I visited Bishkek and Karakol, and from then I went back to Bishkek, and from Bishkek I went to Osh. Osh is nearby Uzbekistan, and from Osh I went to Tashkent, Samarkand, Buhara, and then completely back to Tashkent, and I flew to Georgia. And from Georgia, I flew back to Istanbul, and from Istanbul, I flew back to Germany, and from Germany, I went back to Belgium, where I am now.
And I listen, then you have a plan in your
Yeah.
mind because you want. What is the plan? Why?
So it's like, first of all, like you see like the pictures, right? Like Cairo, about Cairo and so forth, or Samarkand. You've seen the touristy pictures, and I just wanted to see like what's it all about, because we always read books about it, but you've never seen it, right? So I want that's the reason why I wanted to visit those places.
Yeah, but this is about the travel. But you
Yeah.
say then, for example, you want to go from Egypt to Israel. From after you go to Jordan, and from Jordan you want to go to Iraq. Why? Because, for example, usually I don't know, or I have some friends then they take the car in London and they go to Ulaanbaatar for the
Hmm.
Mongol rally. That is wonderful for you, eh?
Yeah, yeah,
But this they have
yeah.
a
They have a
place then.
plan. Yeah,
Yeah. And what
yeah.
is
Okay.
your plan?
No, I
If
don't have a. I don't have a
random,
plan.
okay.
Yeah, I always book my flights last minute, even on the airport itself. I don't care about like I don't like to plan it. I know it's better to plan because you will save much more money, but I don't know. I don't like it. It's like because you have to like imagine you are at one spot and you really like it, and then you want to stay longer, but you already have a plan to move on, right? So you pressure yourself, and I don't like that.
Yeah. This is wonderful because you do like for in your my mind when you talk about the travels. First time I think about Evliya Çelebi.
Where to?
You don't know Evliya Çelebi?
Oh yeah. The from
Yeah,
the
it's
travel.
like
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
you
like
visit even more than Evliya Çelebi because he didn't go to Samarkand, he didn't go to Bukhara,
yeah,
but you do something like this because I see then even about your picture, you don't do a lot of picture honestly, but in the photos then you do, the photos then you share, we I see the passion because you don't see everything. You see something really specific. For example, you like so much the mosque of Amr ibn As, yeah, in Cairo, or Ibn
no,
Tulun,
Ibn Tulun, Ibn Tulun.
Ibn
Yeah,
Tulun, Ibn Tulun.
yeah. So that's also one thing that I had like a very specific. This was unique to Cairo actually. Like most people that visit Cairo or Egypt, they go just for the ancient Egyptian stuff. Now you will see some tourists, Malaysian tourists, and I actually saw some Italian tourists as well from Sicily. Yeah, but there are very few Western tourists that care about Islamic stuff in Cairo. For example, Baybars Mosque was complete. Well, they are renovating it, but Ibn Tulun's mosque was almost completely empty, despite being a massive, extremely beautiful place to see. Um, so yeah, there are certainly lists that I have that I really wanted to see. So Ibn Tulun was one of them. Samara is still one of them in Iraq. That is something I want to see. Um, yeah, and then yeah, the thing is like the reason why I want to see these specific places is because there are certain books about it. For example, The Breaking of the Thousand Swords in Samara, and I really love these books, and that that builds an extra connection. So that's the reason why I really specifically wanted to see those places.
And this thing, in your opinion, it's better or not? Because, for example, when I travel, yeah, I know what I will see. But, for example, I don't want to know anything about the country that I will see. Because I did one time, but the times in which you love more that country is the times in which you don't know anything about it and you
Uh,
leave it. Yeah, for example, I go to Istanbul, and when I went to Istanbul, I didn't know anything about Istanbul, about Turkish culture. So, for example, I didn't find in the first day Hagia Sophia
yeah,
because I don't look
yeah,
maps or anything. So, in my opinion, when you discover it, you say, "Wow!" But of course, if, for example, I went to Morocco, but in Morocco I have a image in my mind,
hmm
and if you see Morocco for real, it's not completely the same, but maybe in your opinion it's different because you see for the first time more, but more than what I ever seen, and after you are really more specific. I, for example, I don't think I any time I read some book about some mosque
yeah.
in specific or similar.
Oh, you mean like you try to not see as many touristy pictures because it overinflates your expectations. Yeah, I mean, for example, when it comes to that's like touristy things, but personally, I thought that all the places that I went to were worth it. Of course, like if you go to Cairo, for example, I'll have to be honest. Like Cairo, in terms of heritage, it was the most impressive city I've ever seen from all the from all the places I've been to. But others than that, the place is very dirty. It's very polluted. The food culture is not really that good, to put it mildly. Um, but I mean, honestly, I kind of get used to this touristy type of, I don't really follow the touristy videos on YouTube or something like that. I don't like them. So, because it's usually like people that over exaggerate it and they try to make it as nice, much nicer than it is.
And you say about Cairo, and you say then it is the places that impressive you more. Why?
Mhm.
What do you like more? Because, for example, I would like so much to go to Egypt and Cairo, but honestly, I have a lot of my friends that come from Egypt, and they don't love Sisi. So I
Yeah,
went to protest in Italy against, etc. So I know then Egypt for me it's not wonderful
yeah,
in this moment,
yeah.
but of course I know that it's wonderful, but I want to know how you can say Cairo is better than Istanbul to see.
Okay, yeah.
Why?
So,
From you
so
it's Turkish
no, no,
history and
yeah.
Cairo is better. Oh,
Well, it's actually like to actually in terms of Turkic heritage, Cairo has much more to see than Istanbul has because you had the Turkic Bahri Mamluks and their historical landmarks, also the Tulunids, the Ilkhids don't really have that much, but so there is a lot of Turkic heritage in Cairo. I mean, very few people know this, but there were Turks in Cairo before there were Turks in Anatolia, right? With the
mhm.
Tulunids, and it's like ninth century or something like that. So, but why do I say like Cairo has much more to offer than Istanbul? Istanbul, if you want to have like a nice touristy trip, it's obviously much nicer than Cairo because the food culture is good, the nightlife is good, there is no massive pollution. I mean, some places are dirty, but it's fairly clean as well. But the reason why I say that Cairo is better than Istanbul is because first of all it has the pyramids of Giza, and then you also have the Saqqara pyramids, and you have like a bunch of other pyramids as well. Um, that's point one. Point two would be like you have the ancient, like the Coptic Christian heritage of Cairo, and the third the third point would be you have the two well everything about the Mamluks and the Mamluks in terms of cultural heritage. Like personally, I found the mosques of like Ibn Tulun or the Ibn Kalaun complex or the fortress, the citadel, the Cairo citadel. I found that much more like there was much more history, there was much more historical heritage, and much more impressive historical heritage than most things compared to Istanbul. Um, and after that, after the Mamluk heritage, you also have Ottoman style architecture, and then you also have like 18th, 19th century, 19th century Egyptian monarchy. Like when Egypt was a monarchy, you still have like a lot of these Levantine buildings built by Europeans. Um, so yeah, in terms of like Istanbul, like as a tourist, is much better. Like nightlife, food, still has like a lot of to see. But purely on basis of historical heritage, I'd say Cairo wins.
And what is the reason or the more reason than make you stay in Cairo for 1 month? Because 1 month it's a lot. Cairo
Yeah, it
is
was.
really big, but 1 month,
Yeah.
what?
Well, we actually went to Alexandria as well, which doesn't really have that much, and I went to Luxor as well. Luxor is sort of very in the southern part of Egypt. But basically, I had a host, and he basically gave me one of his. Well, this is a funny story. In Egypt, you have something called old rent. So old rent, if you buy or you rent a villa or an apartment, you just pay like 10 or 20 Egyptian pounds a month, and that's like 80 euro cents or 1 euro. So 1 euro a month for a villa in an upper middle class area in Cairo. And you ask yourself, how is that possible? And it's like because back in the days, Nasser made it so that like in the 60s, um, these contracts had to be set in like 10 or 20 pounds, and it stayed static for the rest of, you know, till whenever that contract runs. So basically, people pass that contract down to their kids and so forth and so forth. So yeah, the thing is like my host had like a bunch of properties that he inherited, and he tried to basically kick out all the tenants because they were not, you know, they were not giving him any money. They were just giving him like 10 or 20 Egyptian pounds, which you can buy like two or three Coca-Colas with, you know. So it's like useless. So he had a lot of empty property, and that's the reason why I could stay there. And that's the reason why I stayed pretty long there as well. I also caught COVID, so a week or so I was sick. So that also, you know, extended my stay. Um, but 1 month, I'd say, actually, I would say that in this 1 month, I still didn't see everything about Cairo because in Turkey, in Istanbul, they say the same thing. If you want to see everything about Istanbul, 1 or 2 weeks is enough, like to see the major things. But yeah, if you really want to see everything about Istanbul, 2 years isn't enough to see it. So yeah, that's the deal with these cities.
And I don't know, this make you a little more in touch with Arab culture.
Yeah, it's well, actually, there's like a. I don't think that we can speak about one Arab culture because if you go from Egypt, compare Egypt to Jordan, for example, there's like a world of difference, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say like there is like this one homogeneous Arab culture. Obviously, even in Egypt, there are differences between Alexandrians and Cairo people and so forth. Um, but what I noticed is that, and this was something I was impressed by, is that there was still like a very Turkish touch on Egypt. So I'm not talking about Turkish Arab relationships like you might see in the Levant, like between the Ottoman heritage or something like that. But there was just a lot of, you know, because a friend of mine told this, um, around like 1/4 of the, you know, people from Cairo, they have some kind of Turkish heritage, whether it's like, you know, in Turkey, we have the same thing, right? Like a lot of people have like Bosnian or Albanian uh, heritage. Like it might be just their grandfather or grandmother or something like that. And the same thing is also true for Egypt. So I'm not saying that Egypt and Turkey are similar in terms of culture, but it's not like a completely other world.
Yeah, in fact, in my mind, the Arab that are more similar with Turkish are the Egyptian and the Algerians.
Uh,
Algerians too are really connected, more than Tunisian one, and really more than Moroccan one. Yeah.
I've heard that there are a lot of Turks in Algeria, but I've never been to Algeria. I just seen a few like these Algerian Turkish history pages or like community pages, and like they don't have Turkish names or something like that, but they still feel like very Turkish. Like
No,
they,
they
yeah,
for example, I know some people that have as name Bey,
yeah,
for
yeah,
example, or I have the Chi like Arab. Yeah, for example,
yeah,
like the, yeah, and this is for the future. Algeria is the biggest place, the biggest state in Africa, and if you go, for example, to the north, are completely different about the south. The south there is
yeah,
the Sahara, the Tuareg,
yeah,
and this could be interesting because Tuareg are like the old Turkish
Yeah.
people, so
Well,
nomad.
Tuareg. Yeah,
Tuareg,
like the
yeah,
nomads. Yeah, yeah,
they are not the same population, of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
but they are already today nomad as the Turkish people in the past. Ah, you need to go to Russia.
Well, I've tried to, but the thing is, like, I am a Turkish citizen, but I didn't have my Turkish passport with me, and to get a Turkish passport, it takes like 1 month. So I was like, I'm not going to wait like 1 month. So I thought like maybe another time because I was in Kyrgyzstan and it was already cold. So yeah,
Better the hot.
yeah. The thing is, like in these countries, and now we're talking about Central Asia, like Uzbekistan in terms of train travel infrastructure, it was very good. But I'd say like Kyrgyzstan, the infrastructure was pretty bad. Um, and like for example, you couldn't like you have like this lake in Kyrgyzstan which is called Ishikul, and you can't go south of it. You can only just pass from the northern part of it, especially during winters. So that's kind of like, yeah, I think the same is true for Russia. So like, if you want to travel Russia and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, I think it's much better with a car or like a motorcycle or something like that because it's like so big. So even Kyrgyzstan is big. Like it seems small on the world map, but once you're there, like it's bigger than you think.
Yeah. But in this place, honestly, I think then if you don't have a car, as you said, you can also go to with it. It's impossible, and honestly, with the bus or similar, I think yeah, you could use. But as you go to Russia, if you go to Russia, in my mind, the better is or your car or a taxi, a public taxi.
Yeah, but taxis, they try to rip you off always, like everywhere. Like, don't ever trust taxis, whether it's in Turkey, whether it's in Egypt or Kyrgyzstan. They will try to rip you off instantly and try to use Yandex or Uber and have some cash with you. Have some small cash with you as well, because the trick that taxi drivers do is like they don't have the small cash with them, right? So they say like, "Oh, sorry, I can't give you back." So try to work. Yeah.
And coming back to the map of your travel, what is the difference about the Arab in Jordan and Arab in Egypt, as you said before?
Um, I think that Jordan was just much better organized as a society. It's much more developed. I don't know about the, like, you see that the living standards were much better than in Egypt. So Egypt still has like a problem with illiteracy, um, a lot of poverty in Egypt as well. Um, what else? Yeah, Jordan felt much more laid back, like relaxed, whereas Egypt, was much busier, let's say. So people were still like, how should I say it? It's just like a poverty type of thing. I think that Egyptians are on average much poorer than Jordanians, and Jordan felt much more like a developed country than Egypt.
Okay. And mm, what do you see in Jordan?
Jordan, I don't really like that much. It's a nice country. People are nice. Food is good. It's similar to like the Turkish food from Gaziantep and so forth. But it wasn't really that much to visit. And to be honest, I didn't see the Petra. Unfortunately, I just went to Amman. Yeah, in Amman, there were some Roman ruins to see and some old, well, I don't think that I've seen some old buildings at least. Um, yeah, and that was kind of it. Um, yeah, it's not a ugly place or something like that, but I'm like a history nerd, right? So like I like places that have a lot of history, and Jordan wasn't really that much. So I tried to get into Syria, but again, there's like this bureaucracy. You have to need all the papers and stuff like that, and it's just useless. So one story that I can tell is like when I took the ferry from from Egypt, so the Sinai to Jordan. I arrived there at like around 7, so 7 in the afternoon, 19 hours. And we only um, left in left at 2 midnight. So at 2 midnight, I think we started boarding the ship, and then at 3 we we left or something like that. And then the thing is like this. So took like from 19 hours. So let me count. 3, 5, 5, 7. It took like 8 hours or something like that to get on the ferry, and then for the ferry to leave. And the reason for that was basically we had to stay hours in line because there were so many police checkpoints that always check your passports. It was like 10 or 11 or 12 policemen that always check your passport. And it's like for nothing. Like, it's not like you put like, instead of like 3 people to check your passports and you put them like 10 times, it's not, they're not going to see something new or something like that, right? So that's, just traveling in the Arab world is kind of a pain in the ass because of this bureaucracy again. Like when I tried to get into Syria and I was rejected and I had to go back to Jordan, what they do is like it takes also hours to get back into Jordan because they disassemble the car. Literally, they disassemble the car. Partially because, and you might think like, is it because of terrorism or some danger of smuggling weapons or whatever? And that's the friend of mine this, and he said like, no, it's not because of that. It's just like people smuggle all types of things. For example, sometimes they have like golden car parts that they paint over and they try to smuggle into Jordan. They try to smuggle the gold by disguising it as a as a part of the car. So that's the reason why they disassemble the cars and so forth. So it's like, yeah, that's one of the many reasons. Like the story that I said like in the beginning of the video is like to go with a plane to from Jordan to Romania or to Poland. It takes like 10 euros to go from Jordan to a neighboring Arab country, Baghdad. It takes 300 euros. So again, that shows how ridiculous it is. Like even the ferry, I remember, okay, it's like Egypt and Jordan, two different countries. But the thing is this, the ferry was like very expensive, like 140 euros or something like that. And the thing was, um, it was just like a passenger seat on the ferry itself. And it was not really a luxurious ferry. It was like an overcrowded ferry. Whereas, like, if you go from Crete to Athens in Greece, okay, it's the same country, but you pay half the price, and you get your own cabin, you get your own bathroom, you get your own. Yeah, it's like on a luxury ship, like a luxury ferry ship as well. So that's, you know, again, that's another example of how much of a pain in the ass traveling between Arab countries is.
And after you go to Poland, so you change completely your travel. And this is my question. In Poland, you had find something about the Tatars of Poland.
Oh no, no, no. That was like a issue with the Belarus border. So I just went to Krakow and then I went to Vienna because again, it's like easier to go to Europe and then fly from Europe back to Istanbul because I had to be in Istanbul, than to go from Jordan to Iraq and from Iraq to Turkey. That was like, flying, even like flying from Turkey to Egypt, it's pretty expensive. It's like easily 200, 300 euros to fly from Istanbul to Cairo. And this is just another example of how like ridiculous, traveling in the Middle East is because, if I want, I can, next week, I can go from Belgium to Crete, which is on the other side of Europe, for just like 10, 20 euros with Ryanair. But in the Middle East, yeah, it's still like a pain in the ass.
And after, so you go to Vienna, but you stay in Vienna a lot or a little?
A, f-
Because
a
this
few
is a few.
a few
Ah,
days. Yeah, I was in Vienna before, like when I was 18 years old, but I didn't really see it that much. So I really wanted to see the library and the museums and stuff like that. So I spent a few days there and then went back to Istanbul.
Yeah. And in Istanbul, why you need to go?
Just I had a friend, and he's
Okay.
busy with a container business, and I promised him to help him out, and he was flying on that date as well, and I helped him out with like setting up like a import export business from Turkey.
And in Istanbul, you continue to see, for example, something in specific or not? Because I know that you had to see in Istanbul for a lot of time. So in this time, it's better to see what you prefer in general more than what you had seen this time.
Well, I've just took him around Istanbul, like the basic things. But as you said, like I've been, like from childhood, we go almost every year to Turkey. So from Belgium, where I live, um, so Istanbul is nothing new for me. Like the first thing that I do when I arrive in Istanbul is try to get out, because Istanbul makes me claustrophobic. It's way too big, and especially the last years, it has way become way too overcrowded, and that's why I don't really like Istanbul. It's the same thing for Bursa. Bursa has also become very overcrowded. A lot of major tourist cities.
But you start also a travel in Turkey when
Yeah,
you leave Istanbul. So you see some places then first time Ankara. I know that it's not beautiful. Yeah,
Ankara. I like it. I like Ankara because it's a very organized city, but people hate it. I mean, I'm not saying go there, but like in Turkey, you have three places for tourists, like Istanbul, obviously, and then you have the Aegean coast, which I prefer over the Turkish Riviera. I don't like the Turkish Riviera, which is on the Mediterranean coast. I prefer like the Greek-styled villages, Ayvalık, and places nearby Izmir. But that's kind of expensive as well. Like especially the last years it has been like when I was a kid, all these places were still like empty, right? But yeah, since the past 10, well, especially with under the Akparti era, and this has something that a lot of environmentalists have complained about in Turkey. A lot of the coasts have been built up, so it's like way too massive hotel resorts and so forth. So I don't really like going to the Aegean coast anymore as well. Um, but I went there. So basically, what I did is, well, the start of the travel was in Istanbul, right? Then I went to Ankara. From Ankara, I went to Konya because I had never seen Konya. Then I went to Bodrum because a friend of mine was there. And from Bodrum, I went to Mersin, which is in the south of Turkey. From Mersin, I bypassed Adana because I had seen Adana as well. There is nothing to see there except that there is one Roman bridge, and that's it. And then I went to Gaziantep and Urfa and Mardin and Diyarbakir. And that's like usually known as being the cultural, a very culturally rich center of Turkey because Gaziantep and Urfa and Mardin, they are like mixed with Assyrians, Turkmens, Arabs, and Kurds, and Zazas, and so forth. Um, and
even
also,
Konya.
well, no, in Gaziantep. Well, in Konya, you also have like Kurds, right?
Yeah, but
But
Konya is the house of Rumi, so I know that Rumi is not people like others in Turkey, for example.
yeah, Konya is actually, yeah, I know it's like known as the conservative stereotype, and it has Rumi's place. It also has like nice Ottoman houses, a few Ottoman architecture, but other than that, there's much more to see in Gaziantep. Let's say, like most famous Turkish dishes, kebabs and so forth, desserts, baklava, everything comes from Gaziantep usually. So yeah, I went there. I met a Swiss Greek friend there in Urfa, and we traveled together. So then we went to Mardin, then to Diyarbakir, then to Van, and then he flew back to Switzerland, and I continued. So I went back to Erzurum. Erzurum is also very rich historically. It's kind of disliked because again, it's a very right-wing city. It's very nationalistic. It's like like a map type strongholds. Then I took the Doha Express, which is something I would recommend people to do. Do the Doha Express is like the Turkish Trans-Siberian railway. It goes from Kars to Ankara, and it's very yeah, it's pretty slow, but it's pretty nice to do. So I went back to Ankara, and from Ankara I went to Bursa, and from Bursa I went to Istanbul, from which I went to Egypt.
So, and at, when you go to Kyrgyzstan, because you
Oh, yeah,
say
okay.
a lot of
Yeah,
places, so
yeah,
now my mind it's a
yeah.
little more.
Yeah, so the first month was Turkey. So I did a tour around Turkey. Then I went to Egypt, and
Okay.
from Egypt to Jordan, from Jordan to Poland, from Poland to Austria, then to Turkey, and then again from Istanbul, because you always have to bypass Istanbul anyways if you want to go to East. Um, so I went to Kyrgyzstan then. So it was
Ah,
like November, December, that type of month.
and you say before then the infrastructure in Kyrgyzstan are not very good, but more than this, what 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 kind of country it is? Because one time I do a live with a Kyrgyzstan woman, then live in
Hmm.
Italy. But what she said, it's completely different about what I think. But honestly, uh, I I want to discover more because I think it's a strange places. Kazakhstan have a specific identity. Uzbekistan too, Tajikistan too, Turkmenistan too, Kyrgyzstan have one, but it's something really particular. I know then they have a national hero, then it is
Manas,
something
yeah.
particular, but they are something strange about for some people. Then, for example, live in Italy, or I think even for your Belgian friend, say Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
What?
Well, actually, it's becoming more and more popular as a tourist destination. But well, personally, okay, the first thing that I was kind of shocked by is the poverty levels, because I usually travel inside of Europe, so it was very underdeveloped. Um, but again, like some people are going to complain about this when I say this, but I don't mind it. You know, like I understand there is like a very strong post-Soviet mentality. Well, post-Soviet. The thing that you see in every former socialist country, like if you go to Eastern Europe, you will see it as well in Bulgaria and Romania and so forth. Um, Kyrgyzstan, yeah, there was a lot of poverty, but I don't mind it. I didn't mind the infrastructure either, because overall it was a very clean place. I mean, I found it clean. Some Kyrgyz people might disagree, but I found it a clean place. Which is something I value. The food was good as well. They have like a specific type of dürüm, which I didn't taste anywhere else, which is like with ketchup and fries, and they bake it together. Something you should try. They sell it everywhere in Kyrgyzstan. Um, Other than that, it still has like modern hip neighborhoods as well. So with like this Western hipster type of coffee shops, you have as well. Um, and what type of a place is it? I find Kyrgyz people down to earth. I find them like, huh, I can't really generalize too much, right? Uh, but they were, they were just laid back, I'd say, very friendly, very hospitable. One thing that I was surprised by is a lot of people speak Turkish, Turkish. Because there is like a Turkish university there, so a lot of Kyrgyz people go there. Um, what else can I say about Kyrgyzstan? Um, the nature, especially Kyrgyzstan is a place where you have to go for the mountains. It's extremely beautiful, very uncharted. We went to Altinshar or something like that for hiking, where I met a British guy. Um, Other than that, hmm, yeah, that's kind of it. because I went also in the winter. And one thing that I would give a hint as well is like Bishkek is pretty warm, for Kyrgyzstan, um, like compared to Karakol. So the more higher you go or the more lower you go, or something with the altitude, it depends on how cold it can get. Because where I was, it was like 0, 14, 0, 15 or something like that. So it can get pretty cold.
And sorry, I don't understand how it's called because
Oh yeah,
one
it's,
time I
it's
go to
something with if the more you go in the mountains and so forth, the colder it gets, or something like that. But I mean, I remember like being in Karakol, it was very cold, and then I was in Bishkek and I was like sweating constantly because it was so hot. So yeah,
yeah, I think Kyrgyzstan was more cold because one time I went to Morocco. Maybe one time you will go, and I went at the end of October in Marrakesh.
Mhm.
They was 40 grades.
It wasn't really that cold in Egypt, but I mean, it wasn't really that hot in Egypt because I was like in Egypt, I believe in October or something like that. But yeah, you could go with a shirt. I mean, you had to wear like maybe like a summer jacket or something like that. But yeah, it was kind of okay.
So after Kyrgyzstan, you went to Uzbekistan. You continue to speak Turkish, or you start to
Yeah,
speak English there? Yeah,
no, no,
because this is something really interesting. In Italy, the most of the people thinks that if they speak Turkish, only in Turkey they understand. But it's not like this. I know that maybe even in other countries they understand.
yeah. So the thing is with Kyrgyzstan is like, let's say that there's a person that only speaks Kyrgyz. Counting is easy. Very basic phrases, very basic words they might understand. Um, but a lot of Kyrgyz people they tend to speak Turkish. I'm not saying like 20 or 30% of the population speaks Turkish or something like that. No, I'm not saying that. But somebody in the crowd might help you with speaking Turkish or something like that. So it's pretty like, or sometimes they watch Turkish soap operas and they become like accustomed to the Turkish language. Um, but when it comes to Uzbekistan, it helps much more to like, because Uzbek is not really that far from Oghuz Turkish compared to Kyrgyz. Kyrgyz and Kazakh and Tatar are pretty far away from Turkish, right? But Uzbek Turkish is, well, Uzbek Turkic is pretty, well. It's I don't want to say close, but let's, to give a comparison, I'd say it's as close as Dutch and German is. If if a person from the Netherlands or Flanders talks to a German person, um, let's say, and the German person speaks like very fluently and pretty slowly to make himself understandable, he can understand most of it. And that's the same thing with Uzbekistan. Um, if that person in Uzbekistan speaks slowly and also speaks like very clearly, and you try to speak slowly and very clearly as well, you can understand most of what you say to each other and hold like basic conversations.
In fact, I see then there are some artists from Uzbekistan then are listening also in Turkey. Yeah,
Uh, Whether there are artists in Uzbekistan that are listened to,
musician.
musicians from
Yeah,
Uzbekistan,
yeah. I
might
say
be.
one one of this is my favorite because in this time, honestly, I listen him with also other artists, but this is someone that I like so much. So 1 minute that I see what is his name. Janob Rasul. Janob Rasul, maybe they listen also in Turkey. I don't know why, but
Yeah,
Spotify say yes.
it can be, but I'm not too familiar with it. But I like, even on the radio, they you will hear sometimes Turkish music as well. But the one thing that I've noticed is like a lot of people from Samarkand and Buhara are Tajikis. So Tajikis they speak Uzbek as well, but it's
No
more
person.
difficult. Yeah, it's more difficult to communicate with them in Turkish because they speak Uzbek as a second language, so they're not really accustomed to it.
But because Tajiks are Persian,
Yeah, they speak Farsi, or well,
yeah,
close to it. Yeah,
they are mixed, but in their mind, they are more similar to Persian. About what I understand about Tajiks, I
yeah,
don't know in a
yeah.
specific case. But what do you like more in Uzbekistan, and what you had seen specifically? Because in Tashkent, I know that I don't know what there is in Tashkent, honestly,
There,
but
there
the other two
there's
places, beautiful.
there's a statue of Timur. One thing that I found funny, a story by the way, since my name is Kubilay, Kubilay is like the grandson of Genghis Khan, right? Who hosted Marco Polo. Um, And one thing that, like in Turkey, the Mongolian family is like seen as a hero, right? Like they really like Genghis Khan, and they name their kids even like Kublai or Genghis Khan or Batu Khan and so forth. But the people in Uzbekistan and in Kyrgyzstan, they usually look at Genghis Khan and his family as a bunch of barbarians. So they don't really like the family. They like when I say like my name is like Kublai, they say like why do we have like a kafir name or something like that. Um, but yeah, in Tashkent there's not really that much. Samarkand has actually quite a lot to see, um, uh, and I'd say well Tashkent. Well, Samarkand has a lot. The Samarkand is usually promoted in the touristy things. Um, but others than that, I'd say the things that I like is like the foods, Uzbek foods, like pilaf, and the meat is very good. I'd say the Turkish presentation is better about food, like how they bring the service is better in Turkey, let's say, about food. But Uzbek food is much more taste more fresh, I'd say, more tasteful or lezzetli, as they say in Turkish. Um, and what other things that I liked about Uzbekistan is that it was very clean. When I was in Bukhara, of course, it's not a rich country. I'm not saying it's a rich country, but Bukhara, for being a post-Soviet country, it was a very clean place, very quiet place. I felt very safe. Uh, they've they've made it very beautiful, especially at night. Um, I was really impressed by Bukhara itself. Um, by the way that they maintained the historical, you know, their historical heritage. So these are the things that I really liked about Uzbekistan: the food, uh, the historical heritage, how they preserved it, and especially the overall cleanliness about in their cities.
But about the places in specifical, what do you like more? For example, in Samarkand, I don't know. Everyone, people I know, then say like the places. I don't remember the name in this
Oh yeah,
specific one. But uh, yeah,
oh yeah,
well,
okay, yeah, 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 yeah. So what I liked about Samarkand is like a lot of famous Sunni Islamic scholars come from there. So Imam Bukhari, for example, is nearby buried, and also like a lot of there's actually there's a lot of Islamic history, and I'm not talking about like late Islamic history, but I'm talking about when the Umayyads went into Central Asia and so forth. So you will find that. You will even find like remain like where Alexander the Great had his battle and so forth. Um, so that's something that I was impressed by, because it still has like like even I believe in some museums you might find like weapons from Alexander the Great's army, or the Bactrian era. So that's something I really liked. So it's not just like the Timurid architecture, right? Like that's usually promoted, but there are also other things that you can see. Yeah, I'd say that's something I really liked. Ah, and also another thing is like they have a show like a chopans, which is like these Turkic dresses, not the kaftans, the chopans, which is like the winter dresses, and they still wear them in Buhara, like
and
those traditional clothes. Like
for you, what is the biggest difference between Samarkand and Bukhara? Because, of course, if somebody's been there or studied a little about them, know that are different. But about your personal experience, free experience, what is the
Okay.
biggest difference about them?
Samarkand is much more industrious. Bukhara is very much a historical town, like a very small historical town, um, and that's the major difference. And also, like Samarkand is much less touristy. Bukhara is much touristy. It's really like it's like Bruges, like or Venice or something like that. It's like made for tourists, right? I'd say it's the difference between Milan and Firenze.
Yeah, I understand perfectly.
Yeah.
There are, well, places that you can also don't see in Uzbekistan, but I think if you want to write something about Mughal, could be really interesting. Andijan in the Fergana Valley,
Ah,
because it's
yeah,
the place
yeah,
when Babur was born.
yeah. That's the shitty thing about it because I was actually planning to do that, but like a trip like to see India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and also Uzbekistan and Iran. But the thing is like crossing borders and you know unlike what people think, it's like in a lot of ways, it's like much more expensive to stay in those places. It's not like this Euro trip where you go to a post-Soviet country and you have like $1 or $2 that you stay in a five-star hotel. Like in this movie Euro trip. No, it's not like that. It's more like it's actually much more expensive than even Turkey. Um, so yeah, and that's the reason why I said like fuck it, maybe another time when I grow older or something like that. But yeah, it's certainly on my bucket list.
And now I have one question about this travel, and after I have a lot of for
Yeah.
your next travels. But the a question that I didn't ask you already, it is how it's different to travel when there is the COVID pandemic epidemic, the COVID around us, and when there is not.
Well, the thing is, like, sometimes you get rejected at borders because governments they just only accept like if you fly in. Sometimes you have to take a PCR test, but I got double vaccinated. Now I got my booster test as well. Um, I don't even like in Uzbekistan. At most, like in Turkey, if you go to a shopping mall, you have to wear a mask or something like that, or on the plane. But most people they don't really care outside of Europe, especially outside of Europe, they don't really care.
So no, not a lot of difference.
Yeah, it's not. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass. For example, if you want to get to Israel, they they don't let you in, or like the land borders from Iran, they don't let you in as well. Or they want a PCR test, so you have to get a PCR test quickly. But others than that, it's fine.
I think worst because in this period, honestly, I didn't travel, so in my mind, oh, COVID problem, so you will wait a lot. I have some friends that go to Malta,
Hmm.
and because they go to Malta, they have a quarantine about 10 days, close in a hotel, and pass all their holidays there. So it's
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
wonderful. But about the future, what is the places then you want to see again? I know then you will leave tomorrow for Istanbul again,
yeah,
but Istanbul is the portal for the travel.
yeah.
So
The
when you
port to
will
the
go,
east. Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, I wanted to see Samara certainly in Iraq. I want to see Iran. Uh, I want to see India as well, India, Pakistan, because India and Pakistan have like, well, India particularly, have like before the Mughals came, so before Babur's empire, you had the Turkic Mamluk dynasties, right? So the Delhi Sultanate and so forth. I really want to see those places. I want one of my biggest dreams is also to see the Uyghur Buddhist caves in China. So you have modern day Uyghurs, but modern day Uyghurs are basically Uzbek Turks. The old Uyghurs are called nowadays yellow Uyghurs. There are not many left. There are like a few thousand, but they were like the Buddhists. Well, they were the Turkic tribes that converted to Buddhism. I really want to see that. Um, and that's, yeah, from there on, I don't know. But these are on my bucket list. So more of Asia.
There is a place that you didn't see, but honestly, it's one of the places that I really want to see one time in my life. Mongolia.
Well, the thing is, Mongolia is like, I don't know. There is like this Orhun inscriptures in Mongolia, which is like I believe one of the first Turkic inscriptions. But I mean, like, there are there are nicer things that Turkic people built to see than Mongolia. So I don't know Mongolia, but I want to see Mongolia as well, just to go there and then show my ID at the hotel, and then they say like Kublai, oh, you're Genghis Khan's grandson or something like that. But other than that, uh,
Uh, I see. I don't know if you like, for example, Top Gear.
I didn't watch it, but I know what this
Okay.
like. It's
Okay.
a car, yeah.
Because there is a episode in a series that they had done for Amazon Prime, in which they went to Mongolia. They need to build their car. They make your car and go for Mongolia without a map. Okay,
Hmm.
but in this episode, they see, for example, something like desert with sand. They see, for example, rivers. They see
Yeah,
forests. They see the tundra, everything, and only one people in
yeah,
entire.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
you need to see a little some desert.
Yeah, I want to, but that's the reason why I want to see. Well, the Xinjiang Autonomous Region, they call it, or Eastern Turkestan. They have that as well. So, but at least we have Uyghurs, so we can communicate with them. With Mongols, it's not really easy to communicate. But yeah, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, and nothing. I in Iran, what places in specifical? Because Iran is have a lot for
Yeah,
Turkish, but also have a lot about, of course, Persian culture.
yeah,
What
yeah,
do you
certainly.
like?
I want to
Are,
see both of them actually. I don't want to stay to the Turkic places in Iran. I just want to see all of them, like whether it's the Persian, whether it's the Balochis, whether it's the Kurdish, whether it's the Arab ones. I just want to see all of them because I've heard very good things about Iran. Everybody who went to Iran said like very positively. So I really want to see all of it basically. But it depends on my wallet.
yeah, this of course. I have another one question about your roots, honestly, because I had seen then you say that your roots are really near to Georgia. In fact,
Yeah,
you write this is Georgia in your Instagram profile. Yeah.
no, no, no. That's
No, this is another
no,
language.
no, no.
What?
I'm not. I'm not Georgian. But yeah, on my Instagram profile, I have like my name in Arabic, in Georgian, and in Chinese, or Mandarin. It's just like I just like the alphabets. But yeah, my parents are from Ardahan, which is close to Georgia. So Ardahan, Kars, Artvin. That's where my parents were born. But the Georgian alphabet thing is just like I like the alphabet, so I just put it like that.
Yeah. No, but this is because I'm curious if maybe one time you want to also see Georgia.
I've been there. So from Uzbekistan, I flew to Georgia
Ah,
because I
yeah.
had a friend.
But
I
for
had
how much time?
just a few days. I had a
Ah,
friend, and she told me like, "You have like." She was always joking like, "When are you like?" I said like, "I will certainly visit Georgia," and then she was like, "Yeah, after you visit Mars, right?" And I said like, "Okay, like now I really need to visit it, like her in Georgia." So I promised her. So that's why I went.
for me, it's everything. I need also to say then you travel so a lot. Then Evliya Çelebi about
Yeah,
respect you, it's nothing. You need to write your Seyahatname, and
yeah.
it will be really wonderful.
To be honest, I was thinking about it. I don't know what prevented me to write it. Maybe it's just laziness, but maybe next time because I'm planning some other travels as well. And I think like maybe the stories from this travel, the funniest ones I've already written down, so I remember them. But yeah, maybe next time. Like I will certainly take it in account.
I hope. Also because I'm curious, honestly. I know that when somebody writes about his travel, uh, maybe start to walk even more with imagination, and you can also always discover something more. I do, for the same. When I do it, I see.
Yeah, the thing is like a lot of people they vlog now with travel vlogging and stuff like that, and I just don't like that because it's like okay, like there are interesting stories that I've met like during my travels, but I'm not going to pretend everything was like super interesting or like I'm not going to exaggerate it, right? Like some people try to exaggerate it, um, but yeah, others than that, I will try to. I'll certainly write it next time.
Yeah, but it's not, in my opinion, something more about, I had seen this, I had seen this, I had seen. No, in my opinion, the better is how do you feel about what you see? Because honestly, if I want to see something really good, of course, it's better to stay there. But
Mhm.
thanks to internet, I can see even from a drone, maybe in the air. So online it's
Yeah, what
different.
you feel.
you can
Yeah.
you can see better some things, but you don't understand the atmosphere. Then is
Mhm.
the real different things in every one place in which you go. If you go to Milan, there is a completely different atmosphere between
Mhm.
Naples
Yeah.
or Rome or Florence, every of this.
The thing is, like, I've in Egypt, and this is one of the reasons why Egypt was so interesting. I've met a guy who's like, let's say, from an upper class milieu. He's like 53 years old, and I've hung out with his son who's like 23 years old. And the thing about them is like listen, Egypt, when you go on Reddit or something on travel fora, people hate on Egypt a lot. You know, like never go to Egypt. It's filled with scammers and so forth. And I agree. Like Egypt, if you go as a tourist, it's a hell on earth. But if you know the locals and they tell you all the backstories about Egyptian society and so forth. It's one of the most interesting countries in the world. So in that case, I kind of regret writing a book about it because they told me a lot of interesting stories. Like for example, that you have this thing old rent, which is like 10, 20 Egyptian pounds. Like you would never hear that from if you just go to the pyramids or something like that, right? So that's one thing that I really liked. Like yeah, about those societies. So if I read a book, it would be also like from a local perspective. We're trying as much as possible.
This is the better way.
Yeah,
So I need to say goodbye. I need to say good travel, and
yeah,
I really want to see you after this travel, so we can put even a
yeah.
little
Certainly.
more about this or future book or not. But your travel are really interesting, and honestly, I like so much how you can be really random to
Yeah,
choose the
yeah.
places because
It's like
it's the sale of the travel. You don't
yeah.
know a little some of this.
I
It's the
mean,
sale.
otherwise it's like you pressure yourself. You want to relax on the holidays, right? So that's how I look at it. But anyways, yeah, thank you for hosting me. And if I go to Iran, if I manage to go to Iran or to India, we can do another podcast or a video, certainly.
I'm here.
Anyways, see you. Thank
Thank you so much,
See you.
and good evening. Yeah,
Yeah, certainly.
bye bye.
Bye.